So ALISTAIR Overeem and Junior Dos Santos have both been released from the UFC contracts. This is the Battle Cap. My name is Rahul Jaychan. Thank you very much for joining me. Before we talk about the release of these two heavyweight veterans, please do like this video, share it with a friend and subscribe to the channel. Actually, I'll tell you what, wait till the end of this video. And if you decide to yourself, you know what, I really enjoyed that, then like it. Share it with your best mate who does not watch MMA, but you can subscribe to the channel right now. Go, do it right now. So when I found out about this morning, my initial kind of reaction is, I suppose, I was shocked, but I'm not surprised. You know, I'm shocked, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, mother effers, as Nate Diaz said after he beat Conor McGregor. And the reason why I'm not surprised is we've seen the UFC have got this new strategy where they're releasing veteran fighters that don't necessarily figure in the title picture, but do command, you'd assume, big purses when they do fight. Yoel Romero and Rumble Johnson are two other examples of this. Now, Rumble Johnson is a slightly different case because obviously he hasn't fought in a number of years and we just don't know what he has left. But the UFC chose not to find out and chose to release him rather than give him a fight. So potentially Rumble Johnson could still be the Rumble Johnson we saw before he kind of retired. You know what I mean? But time will tell, I suppose. This situation, however, is very similar to the release of Yoel Romero. And we need to note, just because they got released on the same day, both fighters aren't in the same boat. Overeem has shown a lot more in terms of ability against top heavyweights in the UFC than Junior Dos Santos has recently. Also, another important thing to note is Overeem only had 2 fights left on his deal, whereas Junior Dos Santos had 5 fights left on his deal. So let's just look at Junior Dos Santos to start with. Like I mentioned, he's got 5 fights left on his deal and he's lost his last 4 fights. Not only has he lost his last 4 fights, he's lost his last 4 fights via TKO. But the thing with JDS is he's been fighting killers. Like, he's not been given any easy touches in his last few fights in the UFC. He lost to Cyril Gane, he lost to Rosenstrike, he lost to Curtis Blades, and then Francis Ngannou. So you got 2 guys that are at the top of the heavyweight division at the moment in terms of Curtis Blades and Ngannou. And Rosenstrike was a guy that was kind of being built as maybe the next big thing. And then Cyril Gane is being built as the next big thing at the moment. So you have to feel for Junior Dos Santos a little bit because he's a veteran. He's a guy that's achieved so much in the sport. And he just was not given any kind of easy touches, man. He was cannon fodder for killers in the heavyweight division. Overeem, on the other hand, he's a guy that's had a bit of a checkered recent past in the UFC in terms of wins and losses. But he has shown a caliber of quality in terms of the way he negotiates opponents in the heavyweight division. And I'd say he's a guy that's closer to his best in comparison to Junior Dos Santos. So Overeem definitely surprised me a lot more than the release of JDS did. One thing that I'm not sure if I'm remembering this correctly, but after JDS lost to Gane, I remember Dana White basically saying that JDS needs to look at himself and I think he, you know, it's not for me to say whether he should retire or not, but it's something that he should consider. Now, I don't know if that's a fact or not. I think I remember saying this, but I'm happy to admit if I'm wrong, because I don't want to put words in Dana White's mouth, but I do feel like he did have that kind of view on JDS after he lost to Gane. After Overeem lost to Volkov, though, I think Dana White was a bit more kind of, oh, he's a beast, and, you know, whenever we offer him a fight, he's always up for it. And he was a lot more positive about Overeem. Which again is another reason why Overeem's release surprises me a lot more than JDS. One thing I kind of feel sorry or bad about, I suppose, is the fact that both of these guys are not just veterans, because there's a lot of veteran fighters, but these guys are both guys that were once at the top of the division. And I posted about this earlier on Instagram, so follow me at the Battle Camp. And the caption that I wrote is, they gave us so many memorable moments. And it just feels a little bit unceremonious the way that they've been released, you know, just dumped. These aren't just any guys, you know. JDS was a UFC heavyweight champion. Overeem never quite reached that pinnacle, but he has in every other organization that he's fought in. You know, these guys literally both of them have had periods where you'd sit there and say, this guy's the best in the world at mixed martial arts. And JDS more so than Overeem. You can potentially argue that these guys have gone on for longer than they should have. But it's easy for us to sit here and say, oh, they shouldn't be fighting anymore. Who am I? Who are you to be sitting here on our fat asses telling someone like JDS or Overeem that you shouldn't be fighting anymore? Do you know what I mean? But I just think the manner in which this has been done, I think the way a fighter is released needs to be tailored to who the fighter is in a funny sort of way. And I feel like there should have been a bit more of gratitude showed to both of these men, even if the decision is to release them. Especially Overeem, man. Just because of the simple fact he's only got 2 fights left in his deal. Like, you couldn't have afforded him the opportunity to just fight out his deal and go out with a bit of dignity. You know? Or even tell both of these guys, look, man, you guys have done so much for the sport. You've done so much for the organization. We don't really think that there's room for you on our roster moving forward. But I'll tell you what we're going to do. You can either be released now, or we'll give you both one more farewell fight. I think that would have been a nice way to do it. A bit of class, you know, a bit of class, it goes a long way, you know? But it didn't even give us a chance to say bye. Oh, I wanted to say bye to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, I understand it's a business and whatnot, but you know, these guys have given a lot, man. Blood, sweat and tears, literally. I think they deserve a bit of gratitude in return for what they've done in the sport, specifically in the organization of you know, the UFC. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. It looks to me like both guys will probably fight on, and they have options. I wonder if Bellator are going to be having a heavyweight Grand Prix anytime soon. I know they just recently had one, so I don't know whether they're going to be announcing one, you know, anytime soon, especially with Ryan Bader being in the light heavyweight Grand Prix. PFL got a heavyweight tournament in the works. I don't really know much about what their kind of schedule looks like for the rest of the year, but £1 million or dollars prize money for the winner of that heavyweight division. I couldn't name a heavyweight that's already in that organization. It might be an option for someone like Overeem. I'm not sure whether JDS still has what it takes to win that. Or they could go across to ONE FC, man. ONE FC still have, they have a number of heavyweights, and I know Overeem is revered in that part of the world. So if they want to fight on, they still have options. But just in terms of their release from the UFC and how it's been handled, I feel like as a fan of the sport, it could have been handled a lot better, man. As I said, different guys deserve different levels of, well, everybody deserves respect, so that's the wrong word, but I think different fighters deserve different levels of fanfare. And I think it's important to remember just how kind of the moments that both of these guys have given us. Like, who remembers when Overeem kicked Brock Lesnar in the liver and just finished him and looked an absolute animal? Who remembers when JDS knocked Cain Velasquez out in that Fox debut show and became the heavyweight champion of the world? There's so many different moments within the UFC you can list that these guys have provided us. And it's important to remember that, man. It's important to keep hold of that, because it feels like these two guys are the last of that generation of heavyweight. Apart, like, Arlovsky, I suppose, is still knocking about in the heavyweight division. But, you know, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new age. And these guys are no longer required in the UFC. That's why it's important to remember, man, loyalty is a very, very, very interchangeable emotion and feeling when it comes to MMA. Like, fighters get embroiled in these disagreements and arguments with the organization around pay and this, that, and the other. And that's why it's important to kind of know your worth and fight your battles and fight your own corner, because something like this is just around the corner, you know. But I suppose it is what it is. I've gone on for 10 minutes, so thank you for joining me. Please do share your thoughts below. What do you think about these guys both being released? What do you think? Well, I think it's important to talk about what do you think what do you think about what I said about the manner in which they've been released? It's one thing making the decision, all right, let's release them. But what do you think about how they got released? Do you think that they deserved a bit more from the UFC, like I've just mentioned? Please do comment below, man. Again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now's the time to like and share if you did enjoy what I've been talking about for the last 10 minutes. Also, you can get all of this content on your favorite podcast platform. All the links are in the description below. So please do subscribe to my podcast channel, or whatever the right terminology is. Yeah, man, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Cheers.